Howdy, lieutenants and economists.
The most volatile, evil, disgusting things on the planet, humans. If you have a video request, you can always go to assholeconsulting.com.
Yeah, I am gonna charge you, kids. And that is the importance of not fucking up.
You are such an asshole!
Morning, lieutenants. The old captain here. I got my favorite coffee mug. And we're not even up. Just literally woke up. Haven't even showered yet. And want to bang these two things out before the day gets going on. I have a big day ahead of me. Gonna go run. Gonna go have a cigar. Gonna go work at the cigar lounge. Talk to the old timers there. That's fun shit, man. You go to like barbershops or cigar lounges or haberdasheries if you got them. You hang out with all the old retired men, and you just shut up and you listen, and they got wisdom there, and they're interesting people. Anyway, Zach had a different Zach. Zach has a video request, and if you have a video request or just any kind of question that you need a consultation or my opinion on something, you can go to assholeconsulting.com, and a very happy Cappy will answer your questions. Excuse me. Dear Mr. Clary, in your videos in the past, you have commented extensively about the hardship of the Great Recession and also of the much broader and more permanent structural changes in the economy. Especially for younger people, it can be far too easy to live mindlessly or desperately from paycheck to paycheck. This was reflected in your general advice to not try until a person is in his 30s. At the same time, that leaves a lot of terrain that needs to be navigated over a time frame that can be easily exceed a decade. You have also commented that it can be worthwhile to go so far as to risk shame in order to transform one's circumstances. This can involve a constrained experience due to a demoralizing employment situation, like with dictatorial supervisors, work beneath one's ability, or a complete lack of work ethic, or lack of work in some cases. Now, as you have discussed, youth unemployment tends to be more severe than those of the older age cohorts. You have also made the obvious point that we only have this one life to live, therefore it is important to make the most of one's opportunities and experiences. You have given examples of how to change this perspective with domestic travel, international travel, quitting one's jobs, confronting a supervisor who needs confronting, changing a relationship status, choosing to collect unemployment if eligible, starting a new hobby, reading a pertinent book, or even visiting a museum. I'm going to do that actually. There's a Russian art museum south of here in Minneapolis, and I always wanted to. I drove past on the interstate. I never stopped in. All this is basically to provide stimulation for our mental experience. You have also stated that you have used spider diagrams and Gantt charts to logically think through and purge thinking. Of course, sometimes a person is needed to make decisions with limited information, perhaps limited funding, for a short to mid-term. Please discuss with sufficient thoroughness for your core audience in their 20s and 30s to apply to their own circumstances as needed, and with some specific guidance about the methods to purge thinking. Thanks, Zach. Well, thanks for the email there, Zach. I had to kind of sit and think this down. I had to sit and think this through. Because it's not that I've written down the methodology, but it's just been refined, more galvanized and hammered out throughout the course of my life. But there is an effective methodology that I've kind of developed, and it is one that addresses all the disadvantages and drawbacks that young people face, Gen X, millennials have faced, and that is your poor employment prospects, the outright corruption of elder generations, and everything you mentioned there before. So keep in mind, I'll just go through my list, my decision-making process, and then I'll address them in individual things. First thing I ask are, what are my goals? Okay, now this changes. This changes as you get older. Like my goals when I was 10 was to go to like Disney World and go to mountains. And now as I'm older, I do not want to go to Disney World, but I still want to go to the mountains. So and on top, you'll accomplish some goals, and then you gotta set new ones, because you'll get incredibly depressed and sad if you don't have new goals. So this is that's life. You gotta constantly keep moving like a shark. Otherwise, if you don't stop sharks, they die or suffocate or something if they don't keep moving. So even if they're sleeping, they still are moving a little bit. Interesting thing about sharks. So this is a never-ending process. You will constantly be assessing this. revisiting your life goals, and hopefully they'll be improving and better ones and funner ones, aside, like when you're younger, it's put food on the table, find a job. As you're older, it's like, I want to travel more, da-da-da-da-da, so stuff like that. All right? Next question I ask is, what is the environment I'm living in? And more importantly, what is the reality I'm living in? Okay? And the reason why I ask that question, you have to assess it, is because, one, not only is it the rules and the laws you're going to have to operate by, but 9 times out of 10, if you're under 45, under 50, I'd even say, you've been lied to about the reality of the world around you. So you have to go through this rediscovering process of analyzing what your environment is. And heck, it took me a long time. It wasn't until my last real boss, I put in my 2 weeks notice, and he wanted to give me some kind of lecture, and I didn't care. But he did say something that was profound. He says, just get out of banking. You're not cut out for it. Now, this is coming from a guy, hang on, let me go good. From a guy who predicted the housing bubble before it happened. I am not being arrogant or cocky, telling you the truth. I'm a financial genius. I was damn good at being an analyst and being a banker. Unfortunately, as you're well aware, the banking industry wasn't about being good analytics and being good bankers. It was lending out money for shit and then getting bailed out by the Federal Reserve. Anyway, he was right. I wasn't cut out for the industry no matter how, quote, good I was. The reality is that the industry did not want me. You may have liked a girl a lot, fallen in love, whatever, she found someone else, or never liked it. You have to accept the fact that she doesn't like you, no matter how awesome and great you are. Right? So there's that. One, you've been lied to, and then 2, you don't have any choice but to operate by reality. And so you got to go, and it might take a while, but you got to figure out what reality is. And I think most of my readers, you said you wanted to apply to my core readers, I think most everybody here is we're kind of all on the same page. We do have a really good, finger on the pulse of reality. We know you don't major in stupid shit. We know most people are going to lie to you. Kind of the real world psychological nature of the opposite sex. You got to lift weights and be in shape if you want that. You have to be an interesting. So I think we're all pretty well grounded. And then that allows you to ask the next question: what goals of mine are possible in this reality? And this is the hardest part, where even if you've been lied to and you can achieve anything, the places you will go. If I had a nickel for every time parents of my generation gave friends of mine that for a high school graduation gift, that Dr. Seuss book, the places you will go. Yeah, frickin' nowhere. That's where you're going to go. But even knowing that's bullshit, even if you get to the wisdom, even if you take the red pill and your eyes are open, because you're finite, you get this one life, you want to achieve some things in life. Probably not going to happen. That's being an adult, is admitting some of your goals are not going to happen. For example, I applied for Australian citizenship. I didn't get it, and that's just the reality. I'm trying to think of some other goals I've had to give up on. I had to give up on being an investment banker quite some time ago. And sometimes it's not the worst thing. It's not, sometimes, you can't always get what you want, but just sometimes you might get what you need. And that was the case with investment banking. I look back at it now, I would have been miserable. I had a lot more fun being a ballroom dance instructor. I failed at banking, though I did. I get to do this shit, and now every one of my colleagues is either dead, fired, retired, or still sucking it up in banking. I can have it. They can freaking have it. And it's, I get to sleep. What is it? What time is it? I just turned off. Fuck. I think it's 11. I was up till 5 a.m. So. Working on new project. Really super cool project coming up, by the way. So, anyway. So sadly, you got to give up things that are really near and dear to your heart, but sometimes they're actually good for you. Sometimes one of the worst things that ever happened to me ended up becoming the best thing that happened to me, because it forced me to actually It was bad, guys. It was really bad. But, like, it forced me to diversify and create this online world, so I answered to absolutely no one. And so sometimes your goals being destroyed, or great bad things happening to you, as in extremely bad things happening to you. Sometimes that's reality really cracking your stubborn ass down to get your ass back in the real world. And now that you're back in the real world, you are forced to make decisions that are based in the real world, following the reality principle, which tend to be much more effective. And now I've had way more, heck, in 1 year I've had more success doing this crazy stuff, it's hanging out with you guys, than I ever did in banking. So it's pretty, you got to listen to what the real world is telling you. Anyway, so you got to ask the question, and really come up with your list of life goals at that point in time. Short-term, medium-term, long-term, whatever your goals. And say, which one of these are feasible given what I know about the real world? And sometimes, like I said, I've done geometric proofs. Not that I even remember logical proofs, ampersand in, ampersand out. Some fucking logic professor teaching me this worthless crap that your brain already does intuitively. You don't have to go to that extreme. But sometimes I've fleshed out ideas like that, proving whether or not they're doable or not. And then, finally, when you have these attainable goals, you say, how do I achieve these goals? And that's where I usually come up with a large sheet of paper, very large. And then spider diagram, everything that's related to it. It's also how I start outlining my books, organize my thoughts. And I don't know. You can't grab a sheet of paper like this is my to-do list. You can't. This is a to-do. This is a list. It's not flowing. This is not how your brain is wired. You need something that's abstract and all over the place, and you can just start drawing. If I put in my man cave, I am going to get a big whiteboard, and it's just going to be, and just sit there and flush it all out, think it through, man. And then all of a sudden, each one of your goals, you say, okay, here's all the things that are associated with it, and then it very clearly become apparent and clear how you're going to reach that goal. And then the next thing is fucking do it. That's the other. You got to do it. And spirit is willing, body is weak, that sort of stuff. But that's why I was up till 5 a.m. That's why I've been wasting the past 2 weeks going to Michael's Fabrics and Menards, and you should see my workbench. You'd be like, what the hell are you doing? But the final product is there. But not every goal is like, there's chores. I'm going to clean the toilet. Okay, you clean the toilet. Then there are goals. Things that take a long time to start. I'm going to go to college. Well, that's 4 years. I'm going to start a company. Well, you got to get all these working pieces together. I'm going to rebuild an engine. It takes a while. You'll be in the middle of it. You think, God, there's no end to this. Soon there is an end. Then there is an end. And then, I don't want to necessarily make this rule, but the longer it takes, the greater the payoff. But don't get frightened. Just, like when I write books, it's like I want it done as quickly as possible. And Bachelor Pad Economics, 512 pages, took me 3 months. But I was doing 16 hours a day, man, just, and so that's it. The overall guiding principle, though, of purging thinking is you purge your thinking of stuff that is not feasible, that is wrong, and not possible. And you get rid of your ego, and you don't hold on to things that aren't possible, and that's what purging the thinking is. And then, the rest of it is kind of logical. You don't have to follow my methodology, but it's being cold and calculating and letting go of humanity enough, your humanity, to be very unemotional, unhuman. Vulcan, like like Spock, what is feasible, what is possible, and then chase after those goals with all your gusto and energies. So anyway, I hope that kind of answered it and gave you a little bit of thought. Again, no one has to do it that way. That's just how I do it. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Toodles.